in a small village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, light moved a gentle pace of the seasons. The villages knew one another's names, stories, and secrets. Bound together by tradition and shared history. Among them lived two sisters, Lila and Mara, whose names were whispered more often than spoken aloud. The sisters were known not for their kindness or their skills, but for their faces the villagers deemed too unfortunate to look upon for long. Children. Through pebbles at their feet, women crossed the street to avoid them, and men left behind their hands. The sisters had learned to move through the world like shadows, their presence tolerated but never welcomed Lila, the elder, found solace in the quiet hours before dawn. Every morning, she would slip out of their crumbling cottage and walk to the edge of the forest where a single wild apple tree grew. She would place her palm against its bark, whispering secrets that she would never repeat. This was her first ritual, a moment of peace before the world woke to remind her of her place in it. Mara, the younger, had her own way of coping. She would kneel by the creek, cupping the cold water in her hands, watching her affliction shiver and distort. Maybe today she would meme, maybe today it won't be so bad, but it always was. Their third ritual belonged to both of them. At sunset, they would sit on their rickety porch, weaving baskets from river reeds. The baskets were beautiful, though no one ever praised them. The sisters sold them in silence at the market, their heads bowed, their wets few. One evening, as Lila placed Celeste's woven basket into their cart, she noticed something strange. A single red thread, vibrant against the dull brown reeds, was woven into the pattern. She frowned, running her fingers over it. She hadn't used the needed thread. Mara shook her head. She hadn't either. The sisters glanced at each other. A flick of an spacing between them. It was a small thing, barely worth noticing. But for the first time in years, something in their world had changed without warning. Meanwhile, in the heart of the village, the butcher's son, Henrik, lounged against his father's stall. Grinning as a group of children chased a stray dog. It was handsome in a way that made people forgive his cruelty. His laughed loud enough to drown out the dog's whimpers. His days were a cycle of small torments, making the weak, charming the gullible, and ensuring everyone knew his place was above theirs. His rituals were simple, as needed the sisters whenever they passed, a kick to the stray animals no one cared for, and a toast every night to his own cleverness. But that evening, as he raised his glass, a splinter of wood from the table pricked his finger, swore, sucking the blood, and didn't notice a drop that fell into his drink. The morning, he would forget it entirely. The village slept. Unaware that the threads of their lips had begun to unravel. The red thread in Lila and Mara's basket was just the beginning. The next morning, as Lila walked to her apple tree, she found its branches heavy with fruit than usual for this time of year. The apples were deep and natural crimson, their skins gleaming like white paint. She reached out, hesitating, before plucking one. It was warming her palm as if alive. She tucked it into her apron, and sure why she didn't just leave it. Mara, too, found something strange at the creek. The water, usually clear, rendered for a single moment before returning to normal. She blinked, thinking it a trick of the light. But when she dipped her fingers in, they came away stained faintly pink. The sisters said nothing to each other, afraid that speaking that is aloud would make them real. But the village noticed. The women at the market whispered when Lila and Mara approached, their baskets now subtly threaded with red. The butcher, as a wife, refused to buy one, muttering about the omens. Henrik, ever eager to stock a fire, left them tossed a coin at their feet. For your witchcraft, sneered. The sisters slept without a word, but that night, Lila dreamt of the apple tree bending, its branches twisting into grasping hands. The second sign came when Mara, weaving by the fire, pricked her finger and it. A single drop of blood fell into the wheat, and the entire basket shimmered,